Video games can be incredible. They transport you to places in ways that other media simply can't. In the 8 years or so since I graduated from mobile games to discovering Steam, man, I love Steam. This is my honest opinion. Yeah, sure, we can talk about how every game these days seems to want to find a way to monetize walking, and about how too many games release with more bugs than Asmongold's bedroom. But that would be a one-sided and ultimately depressing discussion. For this reason, I'm going to take a step back and look at the big picture that I see in my mind when I think games. Of course, it might help to get some background on what games have formed this big picture for me. With that history, we can slap together the picture I'm talking about. Once we have that, I can get to why I think gaming is incredible. Okay, so in the beginning there was this One Piece game, and there was this game called Salt, and after that we had Mountain Blade, and then I won't torture you with the details, but it really did start with the One Piece game. One Piece Pirate Warriors 3. As an 11-year-old, One Piece was the holy grail of adventure for me. It had badass moments, it had emotional scenes that shook my underdeveloped, nerdy heart to the core. Most importantly though, it had imagination. The ideas that I saw in One Piece always left me in awe. How do you make a waterfall flowing up a mountain feel natural? And why do fruits that give you superpowers just make sense? With all of these ideas rushing through my mind, I couldn't wait to get to play as all of my favorite characters, to get a taste of what the world looked like through their eyes. I wake up, boot up the game, really excited, and it's okay. My idea of One Piece fights revolved more around the one-on-one encounters, not mowing down hordes of enemies while I ran from point A to point B, to point C, to point D. I had nothing else to play though, so play it I did, and do you know what? I started enjoying the way the game plays. I got a taste of the sheer power that each character holds, and I came to appreciate that part of their world is mowing down hordes of soldiers, because they're just that strong. It sounds silly now, but I promise it'll make sense in a bit. When I wasn't making purchases that didn't make sense, arc, the next purchase that really stood out to me was none other than Divinity Original Sin. I genuinely don't know why this game doesn't get discussed more often. As soon as I took my first steps in the shoes of our two protagonists, I was immersed. The world is so vibrant and full of life. In every town you will find some sorts of interesting interaction between the NPCs. The environments are a treat to walk through, and the soundtrack hit all the perfect notes. Seeing classic fantasy archetypes presented in every class and character was something that I had always wanted. That said though, I swear that magic resistances are too high in the late game. Or maybe that's just me trying to cope with the fact that my builds were terrible because I was a young kid who didn't really understand the idea of specializing. At any rate, despite not finishing the game because of my artificially created difficulty, and my dislike at the time for turn-based combat, I had got another delicious taste of the power of video games as a mechanism for transportation to other universes. In a similar vein, I want to quickly touch on a fantasy MMO. No, not Warcraft. That I probably put too much time into for what it is, but that nonetheless helped me to create a number of memorable moments. This game is Worm Unlimited. I never really got particularly far, but I was sure as hell proud of the one or two houses that I did build. I guess it's just because everything in that game takes so damn long that every little thing comes with some sense of achievement. However, what stood out to me about this game wasn't a great narrative or particularly immersive world. It was the ability for me to craft my own narratives and stories. In the moment, sure, all I remembered was a painful grind, but what kept me playing for so long was the stories that the game crafted in my mind. I have memories of bringing a friend along and watching them get butchered by a troll. I remember a bunch of other guys threatening to kill them because they picked up the corpse of a dragon that was just killed by a large group of players. Worm taught me the power of games to build personal stories. I would again see similar stories when I played games like Fortnite and Apex with my friends. I'm not going to open that can of worms in this video though. The last game that I want to talk about is one of my favorite games of all time. Dark Souls 3.
Yes,
When I
indeed.
first heard that opening music and saw that screen, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. My first foray into the FromSoft universe was incredible. Incredibly painful. You see, 13-year-old me had carried over my proclivity for making terrible builds into Dark Souls 3, a thoroughly unforgiving game. I got my ass handed to me time and time again. I would go for whichever equipment had the highest numbers, which meant that I went into the fight against the Dancer of the Boreal Valley with the slow armor set and a washed out dex build. It did not go well. Somehow, I bashed my head into wall after wall until I finally reached the Twin Princes. This boss made me literally stop playing the game for months. I just couldn't do it. Come a few months down the line though, and I can't get that unfinished fight out of my head. The thought of leaving the world of Dark Souls 3 undefeated, that thoroughly haunting world, didn't sit right with me. I returned and defeated them, eventually, and went on to finish the game, some 90 hours after starting. As I saw the credits rolling, I wasn't sure what to say, or even think. All I knew was that I had just experienced something that was truly unique. A world of imagination and simple yet challenging gameplay that set itself apart from anything that I had played up to that point. Dark Souls 3 was my gateway drug into a world of games that made me fall more in love with the medium that I was already so enamored with. I moved on to Sekiro, Elden Ring, Dark Souls 1, although this one didn't really click with me, all in search of that same feeling. In my mind, Dark Souls 3 encompasses all of the qualities that I spoke about earlier. Your encounter with each boss, each wall, is almost certainly a unique experience. The world, while not being overtly explained, held a sense of something deeper, an untold history that draws you in. Defeating every boss also manages to bring back that feeling of experiencing the world from the eyes of a powerful character without the now tacky looking One Piece skin. To put all my points into a more considered perspective, video games can be amazing because when they're done right, they stop being simply entertainment and become portals into worlds that should be out of our grasp. Like in Dark Souls, dare I say Fortnite, they can be used to forge extremely personal memories and narratives that go beyond what any writer can express. I probably remember how video game worlds made me feel more so than a movie, because when I walk through the meticulously crafted maps and levels, I am that character. Their story becomes my story. And in this way, our stories intertwine. The uniqueness of each encounter makes even the same story become unique for every player. This is why I call games portals. This is why I say that video games can be truly incredible.